The British-Swedish pharma company AstraZeneca has temporarily halted phase 3 clinical trials of its COVID vaccine after a trial participant reportedly developed severe adverse reactions. Now, the company, which is developing the drug alongside the University of Oxford, is a front runner, remember, in the global race for a COVID vaccine. In fact, Oxford vaccine trials were to begin in India also very shortly. Now, the company added that in large trials, illnesses will sometimes happen by chance but must be reviewed independently. AZD1222, which is the Oxford vaccine, is one of the 9 potential COVID vaccines currently undergoing phase 3 clinical trials around the world. Now, let's just take a look at the statement made by the company. And Stat News is the news that broke the story, and their reporter, Rebecca Robbins, in fact, tweeted the statement the company had issued, which said, as part of the ongoing randomized controlled global trials of the Oxford coronavirus vaccine, our standard review process triggered a pause to vaccination to allow review of safety data. This is a routine action which has to happen whenever there's a potentially unexplained illness in one of the trials while it is investigated, ensuring that we maintain the integrity of the trial. The company, in fact, specified in a second statement that they had voluntarily paused the trial. That means there was no regulator that asked them to pause it. It was done voluntarily after they got the news of this complication. Now, AstraZeneca, as we said, is among the 9 firms who've also signed up to pledge to only apply for regulatory approval after vaccines have gone through 3 phases of clinical studies. And industry giants like Johnson & Johnson, Biotech, GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, Merck, Moderna, Sanofi, and Novavax are the other signatories to this pledge. They pledge to always make the safety and well-being of vaccinated individuals their top priority. And this move was intended to bolster public confidence amid the rush to make a COVID vaccine. As we're all very aware, there is this race around the world to develop the first COVID vaccine. So let's just take a look at what it means, because this vaccine was in the phase 3 trial, and in fact, currently in this phase 3 trial, you have AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford vaccine. You have the Moderna and National Institutes of Health vaccine that is also being developed, and that too is in the 3rd stage. And Biotech and Pfizer, their vaccine has also reached the 3rd stage. So far, if we talk about vaccine approvals, well, China and Russia have approved vaccines, but without waiting for the results of a phase 3 trial. In fact, many experts agree that the rushed process has serious risks, and many have questioned this. But yes, Russia's Sputnik V vaccine and China's CanSino Biologics vaccine, which has in fact been approved to be used on defense personnel. So just what is phase 3? When we're talking about phase 3 trials, they go through the 1st, 2nd, and then 3rd phase. In fact, due to the pandemic, many companies are doing phase 2 and phase 3 together. But scientists give the vaccine to thousands of people during the phase 3 trial and then wait to see how many become infected compared with volunteers who receive a placebo. Now, these trials can determine if the vaccine protects against coronavirus. Phase 3 trials are large enough to reveal evidence of relatively rare side effects that might be missed in earlier studies, because in that you have fewer people being given the vaccine. So that is exactly what has happened right now in this Oxford vaccine trial. But reacting to the news of the vaccine trial being stopped, Biocon chief Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw in fact tweeted that the Oxford University vaccine trial paused after participant falls ill. This is not unusual in vaccine trials, but it reminds us why we can't rush vaccine trials. A reality check for sure to all those who want the vaccine by the year end. And Dr. Fahim Yunus, a doctor in the United States who's been very active in sharing information about COVID, has said that need more details, but based on this information, I'm not alarmed. Side effect stops and restarts are part of a good, careful process. Potential side effect versus 35,000 COVID patients hospitalized in the US today. That's the perspective that we need to keep in mind. So those are some of the views. And remember, the Oxford vaccine was talked about a lot here in India, because the Serum Institute of India, along with University of Oxford, had in fact started human trials of the COVID vaccine in Australia. They were meant to begin shortly in India as well. In fact, the Serum Institute of India was one of the first to boldly announce in April that it was going to mass produce the vaccine before clinical trials even ended. Adar Poonawalla had recently even tweeted pictures from from Oxford University recently, and he said looking forward to the vaccine. And he, as we said, is somebody who had already declared that they were beginning to manufacture it even before the final go-ahead was given for the vaccine. But as the company has said that this is just a temporary issue and it's something they're going to be looking into. Well, to talk more about this, we have with us Dr. Rajesh Malhotra with us. Also joining us, Dr. Anita Ramesh, a professor of medical oncology at Savitha Medical College and Hospital, Savitha University in Chennai, and someone who's also been a part of many vaccine trials. In fact, Dr. Anita, I'd like to start with you. How do you react to this news? And it's big news, and right now everyone in the world is tracking all the vaccine news. I know this is something you as doctors and researchers have dealt with, in the course of your profession, but right now all of us are waiting on any and every vaccine news. So what do you make of this announcement by AstraZeneca?
Yes, very good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Anita here. I have experience of more than 20 clinical trials as a principal investigator, both in India and out of the country, and I'm also an US FDA audited investigator. So coming to the trial, phase 3, like rightly you have said, we have one arm, the common people, we have one of the arm, the control arm and the investigator arm. So in phase 3 trial, what we like to see is that whether the vaccine is really working against the standard of care. So sometimes these vaccines will have some routine side effects, which is acceptable. Sometimes the vaccine will produce some reactions which is manageable, which is called adverse reaction. Sometimes the drugs may produce serious adverse reaction. So that's the third thing. Another thing can happen during the treatment for the patient. He or she may have any other simultaneous problem like a cerebral hemorrhage or any appendicitis. So that is not related to the vaccine. So over here, 3-4 compounding factors are acting. One is related to the vaccine, maybe mild adverse reaction, severe adverse reaction. One's completely unrelated to the vaccine. That can happen to anybody at any point of time. So, but in a phase 3 trial where we are going to determine the efficacy against the control arm, it is very, very important. If a serious adverse reaction or anything that is alarming or that is a potential threat to human safety, the trial needs to be paused. I have experience with several trials. We did hold the trial at that point of time. Safety, human safety is the prime importance at this point of time. I know we are in a big push for the vaccine. We need the vaccine, but at the same time, the vaccine should not harm people. So it's a very balanced situation we need to it. The investigators, as myself, we have done earlier, we stopped the trial, we investigated all the things. We looked into the causes, whether it is related to the vaccine, non-related to the vaccine, and then we also involve a third party who will give an unbiased opinion to look into everything of the patient details before we come up. So it takes a little time, but pausing of a trial does not mean the trial has stopped. The trial has stopped for patient safety to look into parameters how we can go forward.
So they can get an independent study, as you said. Dr. Rajesh Malhotra, your reaction to this news. And again, I say, there's so much attention this time around to development of a vaccine. I don't think I've ever spoken so much about a vaccine or learned so much about the vaccine process as I have in these last couple of months.
I think there's no need to despair. I think there are a few things which are quite evident from the news item. One is that there is no serious adverse effect, which we define as something which needs a person to be hospitalized or prolong the hospitalization if he is already hospitalized. So it's and second thing is, I think the companies are trying to send a message which is actually clear and loud to the rest of the world, that they are they have and integrity beyond doubt when it comes to safety. This is again a follow-up action of what they have said, because they are facing a lot of pressure because of the US elections to come out with a vaccine by first week of November. But I think by, when we do trials, you have regulatory bodies. So you are supposed to report the adverse effects to the regulatory bodies, and then they sort of decide whether you need to continue or you need to stop. But stopping by yourself, and even for an adverse event which is not even serious, I think the important thing here is that AstraZeneca wants to tell the world that they are not cutting any corners. As far as the vaccine trials themselves are concerned, I'm sure it will be back on the track soon enough. This kind of thing is not at all unusual, like Dr. Ramesh said, that you can have, although you do a lot of homework when you include these patients for the trial, including their comorbidities and other medications and all. But I would be very surprised, and in fact, I would suspect an intervention if it didn't have any adverse effect at all when it is going through so many people. And this also emphasizes the importance of phase 3 trials. So if we are to get the Russian Sputnik vaccine, I think instead of getting the vaccine, we should first do a phase 3 trial on thousands of patients in our country to see that it is safe, and not sort of start producing and giving vaccine based on the data on less than 100 or 76 patients. So this is what is important news, that I think it is going to take time. There will be setbacks. As far as this one is concerned, I don't think this is a major setback.
All right, and that's right. And Dr. Anita Ramesh, so, I mean, this is, as Dr. said, this is Malhotra said that this is a process of, their own checks and balances, and they're going to get an independent study done. But, this comes at a time when you have a lot of views on the vaccine. People are very worried about this rush for the vaccine, this race for the vaccine. And with Russia announcing a vaccine and many people questioning it, it does create a lot of doubts and confusion in people's mind, isn't it?
Yes, I think you're correct. At this pandemic, when we do not have a proper treatment for coronavirus, and if you see the numbers are rising, though the recovery rate in India is very high, but still we are at the threat of losing life mortality. Yes, it poses a big confusion in human beings, even with doctors also, because we healthcare workers are also affected, and the general population, everybody is affected. So we don't know. We are thinking vaccine will come, but then a halt. And also it creates fear in the mind of people. They will not be coming forward also to volunteer, because we need another arm. A control arm is needed. So they will also not volunteer. So there is confusion. Yes, at this point of, as a news channel, what we need to, from the medical side, we need to tell the people, right, yes, relax, do not worry. We are there. The trial is for your safety. We are researching not only one trial, there are 9 trials going on. We will get the vaccine. And
right.
Little bit.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh and Dr. Malhotra, for speaking to us on this subject.